The alien delegation stood frozen in the observation deck of Station Kepler 442. Their translucent skin flickering, with colors humans had learned, meant confusion and distress. Ambassador. Threll's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he stared at the display screen, showing Earth's latest transmission. This cannot be accurate, Threll said, his voice box crackling through the translation unit. Your planet is dying. The atmospheric readings. The temperature shifts, the rising waters. Your scientists confirmed this themselves. Captain Maria Santos nodded slowly, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. She had been expecting this reaction. Every species that joined the Galactic Council had the same response when they learned the truth about humanity. It's accurate, she said simply. But your people are building. Threll continued, his skin now pulsing orange with what the translation guide labeled as anger or betrayal. Cities, colonies, farms. You are having children. You are making art and music. You are laughing in your broadcasts. His appendages trembled. Do your people not understand? Do they not know? Maria walked to the observation window, looking down at Earth below. From here, she could see the sprawl of megacities, the green patches of the rewilded zones, the glittering solar arrays that stretched across former deserts. It looked alive, thriving, even, they know, Maria said quietly. Every single one of them knows. Threll made a sound like escaping steam. Behind him, the other delegates shifted uncomfortably. A Vorath, crystalline and ancient, leaned forward. Then they are in denial. The Vorath said, its words chiming like bells. We have seen this before. Species that refuse to accept their end. They descend into chaos, violence, despair. They do not build. They do not create. They certainly do not sing. Maria turned back to face them. She had given this speech a dozen times now, to a dozen different species. And it never got easier. Not because she doubted the words, but because she could see the incomprehension in their eyes. The fundamental gap between human nature and everything else in the galaxy. Let me tell you about a city called Pompeii. Maria began. 2,000 years ago, a volcano buried it in ash. But before that happened, the people knew. They had warnings. Earthquakes, smoke. Some left, yes, but many stayed. And in those final days, they baked bread. They painted frescoes. They made love. They argued about politics. They lived. Madness. Threll whispered. Perhaps. Maria acknowledged. But we found their bodies centuries later, preserved in ash. A man shielding his family. A dog chained to a post, trying to break free. A baker with loaves still in his oven. They were afraid. But they kept living anyway. She pulled up another image on the display. It showed a hospital on Earth, specifically the children's wing. Bald heads from chemotherapy, some smiling, some sleeping, some playing games with doctors dressed as clowns. We have a disease we call cancer. Maria continued. It kills millions. We've made progress, but it still takes people we love. Young people. Children. And do you know what we do? We throw them birthday parties in their hospital rooms. We paint their treatment centers bright colors. We bring therapy dogs. We help them make bucket lists. And we try to check off every item. We hold their hands and tell them stories. Until the very end. The Vorath's crystalline form refracted the light strangely, creating patterns on the walls. This is not logical. If the end is certain, why cause more pain by pretending otherwise? Because it's not pretending, Maria said, her voice gaining strength. It's living. It's the most human thing we do. When my grandmother was diagnosed with a terminal illness, she didn't stop knitting. She made me a blanket. Took her 3 months. She died 2 weeks after finishing it. Maria's eyes grew distant. She knew she'd never see me use it. But she made it anyway. Because the making mattered. The love in every stitch mattered. She changed the display again. This time it showed footage from the Mumbai seawall project. Thousands of workers, human and robot alike, constructing a massive barrier against rising oceans. The timeline on the project showed completion in 15 years. The climate models showed the city would be underwater in 12. You see that? Maria pointed. They know. They've run the numbers. They're going to lose. But they're building it anyway. Because maybe the models are wrong. Maybe they'll buy an extra year. Maybe they'll learn something that helps the next city. Or maybe they're just refusing to go quietly. Threll's skin had faded to a pale blue, which the guide suggested was something like sorrow. Your species is dying with its eyes open. Every species is dying, Maria corrected gently. Your sun will eventually expand and consume your homeworld. The heat death of the universe will claim us all. Eventually. We're all terminal patients. Ambassador, every living thing in the cosmos. The only difference is that humans decided a long time ago that the clock doesn't get to decide how we spend our heartbeats. She pulled up one final image. It was a photograph taken during the earliest days of the climate crisis, when the reality of what was coming had first become undeniable. It showed a street musician playing violin in a city square, her case open for donations. Behind her, a digital billboard displayed dire temperature projections and extinction timelines. That's my mother, Maria said softly. This was taken 60 years ago. People said she was crazy, playing music while the world burned. But she told me something I never forgot. She said the music wasn't despite the fire. The music was because of it. Because if we stop making beauty when things get hard, then we've died already. We're just waiting for our bodies to catch up. The observation deck fell silent, except for the ambient hum of the station's life support systems. Finally, Thrill spoke, his voice barely a whisper through the translator. We evacuated our homeworld when we saw the projections. Millions of us fled to colony ships. We abandoned our cities, our history, everything we built. We thought we were being rational, responsible. His skin flickered through a dozen colors. But now our children grow up on sterile ships, learning about a world they'll never see. We saved ourselves. But what did we save? Maria didn't have an answer for that. She didn't need one. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly in the void. Wounded but unbroken. Its people building and dreaming, and refusing to surrender their humanity to despair. And in the observation deck, 11 alien species began to understand why the Galactic Council had started calling humans the most terrifying civilization they'd ever encountered. Not because humans were violent, but because they simply would not stop. The council chamber hummed with tension 3 days later. Representatives from 40, 7 species had gathered, filling the tiered seating that spiraled upward like a nautilus shell. At the center, Captain Maria Santos stood alone on the speaking platform, a single human surrounded by the vast diversity of galactic civilization. Elder Keseth of the Vorath Collective struck the resonance chime, and the chamber fell silent. The crystalline being's voice rang clear. We have reviewed Earth's projections. We have consulted our finest environmental scientists. We have run the simulations ourselves. Keseth's form pulsed with a somber amber light. The conclusion is undeniable. Earth has perhaps 200 years remaining as a habitable world. 300 if humanity's most optimistic models prove accurate. This is not opinion. This is mathematics. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Maria stood perfectly still, her face betraying nothing. The Galactic Council has extended an offer of evacuation 3 times now. Keseth continued. We have colony worlds, space enough for billions, technology to ease the transition. Yet humanity continues to refuse. Captain Santos, you have been sent here to explain why. The Council is concerned. Maria took a breath. She had prepared for this moment, but preparation and execution were different things. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, 8 years old, who had asked her just before she left for the station. Mama, why do the aliens think we're sad? Honorable delegates. Maria began, her voice steady and clear. I need to tell you about my colleague, Dr. James Chen. He's a botanist working in the Gobi Reclamation Zone. 6 years ago, he started a project to reintroduce native plant species to areas of the desert that are temporarily becoming wetter due to shifting weather patterns. She pulled up a holographic display showing a man in dusty work clothes, kneeling beside a small green shoot emerging from cracked earth. D. Decker. Chen knows these plants will die when the patterns shift again. He knows the Gobi will return to desert, harsher than before. He's planting them anyway. When I asked him why, he said, something that I think captures the human position perfectly. He said, because they deserve to live, even if it's only for a little while. Because maybe one seed will survive in a crack somewhere. Because the act of planting is an act of hope, and hope is what makes us human. A delegate from the Jothic swarm, insectoid and logical, clicked its mandibles. Hope is not a survival strategy. It is an emotion, a chemical response. It does not change facts. You're right. Maria agreed, surprising the chamber. Hope doesn't change facts, but it changes us. And that changes what we do with the facts. She expanded the hologram to show a massive construction project. Towers of gleaming metal and living vegetation, spiraling upward into the clouds. This is the Lagos vertical forest. 3 stories of housing, food production, and ecosystem restoration, built to shelter 500,000 people. When the coastal flooding reaches the city, it will be completed in 8 years. The water will arrive in 6. The Jothic delegate's antenna twitched. Then it is a failure before it begins. Is it? Maria challenged. In building it, we've developed new techniques for vertical agriculture that use 70% less water. We've created living building materials that actively clean the air. We've trained 50,000 workers in advanced construction and engineering. And yes, when the water comes, It won't be enough. But it will save lives. It will buy time. And the knowledge we gained will help the next city. And the next. She changed the image again. This time it showed children in a classroom. Their faces illuminated by holographic displays, showing planetary ecology systems. This is the Global Tomorrow curriculum. Mandatory education for every human child. They learn about climate systems, ecosystem collapse, resource management, and off-world colonization options. They know the truth. All of it. Nothing hidden, nothing softened. 8-year-olds learning about the death of their world. A gasp rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Threll's skin flashed a distressed purple. You traumatize your young with this knowledge. This is cruelty. Is it? Maria's voice grew passionate. Or is hiding the truth the real cruelty? We tried that centuries ago. We lied to ourselves, pretended everything was fine, passed the problem to the next generation. That was cruelty. This is respect. We respect our children enough to tell them the truth, and trust them to be brave enough to handle it. She pulled up another image, and several delegates recoiled. It showed a young girl, no more than 10, standing before a crowd. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was steady. This is Amara Okafor. She's 11 now. When she was 9, she gave a speech at the United Earth Assembly. She said, I know I might not grow old. I know the world is dying. But I'm not afraid of knowing. I'm afraid of not trying. I'm afraid of giving up. I'm afraid of wasting the time I have being sad about the time I don't have. Maria's voice caught for just a moment. Amara wants to be a marine biologist. She wants to study coral reefs that might not exist by the time she finishes university. And she's going to do it anyway, because the studying matters. The knowledge matters. The trying matters. Elder Keseth's crystalline form had dimmed. This is what troubles us most, Captain. Your children should be evacuated first. We have worlds where they could grow up safely, with centuries ahead of them. Instead, you teach them to accept death. How is this not a form of civilizational suicide? Maria shook her head slowly. We're not accepting death. We're accepting mortality. There's a difference. Every one of you in this chamber will die someday. Does that mean you've given up on living? Does the fact that your individual life will end make it meaningless? She walked in a slow circle, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. Humanity learned something important long ago. We learned it from countless disasters, from wars and plagues and famines. We learned it from every human who ever faced their own mortality and had to decide how to spend their remaining days. We learned that the length of life matters less than the depth of it. That what we do with our time defines us more than how much time we get. A new voice spoke up, one that hadn't addressed the council before. It came from the mycelium network, a fungal collective intelligence that rarely engaged directly. We have lived for 10,000 years, the network said, its voice a chorus of whispers. We have spread across 7 worlds. We have achieved near immortality through our distributed consciousness. And yet, listening to you now, we feel something we have not felt in millennia. We feel envy. The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. The mycelians never expressed envy. They were beyond such emotions, or so everyone had believed. Explain, Keseth demanded. They burn so bright. The network whispered. We have millennia. They have moments. But in those moments, they create such beauty. Such fierce, defiant beauty. We have forgotten what it means to treasure each day, because we have so many of them. They remember because they have so few. Maria felt tears threatening but held them back. We have a saying on Earth. It's old, from before we even reached space. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. We're not going gentle, Elder Keseth. We're raging. We're building and creating and loving and fighting until the very last moment. And if we only have 200 years left, then we're going to make them the best 200 years humanity has ever known. She straightened, her voice ringing through the chamber with absolute conviction. We will not evacuate. We will not abandon our world. We will plant gardens that may never bloom. We will start research projects that may never conclude. We will build monuments that may never be finished. We will have children who may not reach old age. And we will do it all with full knowledge of what's coming. Because that is what it means to be human. We love not despite the ending, but because of it. The ending is what makes every moment precious. The chamber sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Thrill spoke, his skin a color the translation guide had no name for. We thought you were brave for staying. Now we understand. You're not staying because you're brave. You're brave because you're staying. There is a difference. And it terrifies us. Maria smiled sadly. It terrifies us too, Ambassador.